But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot see.
Good evening and welcome to NUFC Matters with me, Steve Wraith. It is Thursday night, which means I'm joined by Gibbo and Supermac. Good evening, lads.
Good evening, Steve. Hiya, John.
Hi, mate. Hiya.
Good to see you, lads. And as always, this is your opportunity to ask us a few questions about what is going on in the world of Newcastle United. And as often, I get a little bit of mail or emails, should I say, from different people or contacted in various forms of social media to ask the lads something or to point something out. And this was a great one from Alan on Facebook. He says, bloody hell, Steve. Bono, yes, the Bono from U2, has mentioned Supermac in his book.
What?
And it's in there, and it says, during the 1970s, colour telly makes the green of the Old Trafford or Anfield or Highbury football grounds so much greener on match of the day than any green field out the back of our housing estate. The red shirts of George Best and Charlie George are ablaze. It doesn't do much for Malcolm MacDonald. What's the point of supporting Newcastle United in their monochrome kits when black and white is history? So there you go, Mal. You're in Bono's book.
Well, I bet that's going to change your life, Malcolm.
Yeah. I think I'll just look for a career in black and white movies.
Don't do silent movies. It'll be no good for the show, Mal. And this one was from Mark Young. He goes, and sorry, this is about a week and a half, 2 weeks late, Mark, but I got there in the end. Hi, Steve. When you do the show, can you please ask Gibbo if he remembers this book he did on Keegan? He said it was my granddad's book, which I took after he passed away. The book itself is a very good read and it's very interesting. I think it was published around 1984 when I was 2.
Yeah, I remember it well. It caused absolute chaos. Running through it quickly, it was just after KK come to sign for Newcastle as a player. And I was asked to do a book on him. I went up to see him in the Gosford Park Hotel and said, I've been asked to do this book. Would he cooperate, etc.? And he said, sure, Gibbo, but I don't want to take part in it. I don't want it to be ghosted, but you've got my permission to do it, etc., etc. I said, hey, that's great. And then he gave us a few contacts, people to talk to that he was at Scunthorpe with, etc. Anyway, end product, by the time it's about to come out, a while later, Keegan has decided he's about to retire, and Newcastle United are going to cash in on Keegan mania after he's played for us by producing all sorts of things for fans to buy. And all of a sudden they realise my book's coming out before they can do absolutely anything, and they're absolutely furious. So they launch a press conference and get Keegan to appear to debunk the book so that the punters won't buy it. So I hear all of this. There's a big press conference at St James's Park to which I'm not invited. There's always a story about Gibbo, isn't it? And it was to say this book was this, that, and the other. So I was absolutely furious. So I took the next day off work and went round all the radio stations debunking Newcastle United for debunking the book. And it sold like wildfire, and everything's been wonderful. But KK was slightly embarrassed by that, and when I saw him a few times afterwards, he was twitching like a fried egg in response to what Newcastle United had done. But all of a sudden, I was in their way for them making a right few quid on memorabilia. Keegan leaves United, wonderful Keegan, because this book was coming out first. But it did me no harm, and that was brilliant.
Brilliant stuff. Well, there we go. There's a good answer for you, Mark. Thanks for sending that in. Stephen Kennedy says, can I just say thanks to John for his famous top 10 show? I love the memory of Colin Milburn.
Yeah, the Burner Field Basher. Lovely, lovely lad.
Yeah, great.
He was a real super lad, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. He looked
really
so like a sportsman, bless him. I mean, he looked like Mr. Blobby, but he was a great batsman and a lovely, lovely lad. It was good fun doing that show, but I had a lot of time for Colin, and he had tough times with losing the eye, and then, he passed away early in his life. Great shame.
Dave gets in with a question. There's a few questions coming in the chat, so we'll go with the guys because they want to lead the show tonight. So, question for Supermac and John: should the Premier League tell some of these managers to calm down or face a touchline ban? I think this probably comes, John, from the game against Arsenal, which we can talk about as well, which was a hard-earned point, and how the emotions change between a 0-0 against Leeds and a 0-0 against Arsenal.
Aren't they so different, those two? I mean, 0-0 with Leeds left me quite depressed and deflated because it was an opportunity missed. A 0-0 with Arsenal, I thought, was absolutely magnificent because this side is on course for a Premier League points record. They'd won every single home game they played, 7 out of 7. They'd scored in every game they played, home and away. They'd scored in every game they played, and we got a 0-0. And after their initial coming out the traps at 100 miles an hour, I thought we handled them very competently. Our defence handled them competently. And as far as Mikel Arteta is concerned, it's easy enough to look like a male model and go strutting along the touchline, clapping everybody and being nice when you win 7 out of 7 at home. But the minute he's got a challenge that he's facing, which Newcastle were facing, it becomes a jack in the box. He becomes an absolute dervish on the touchline. 2 scandalous penalties and all this old rubbish. I mean, what's he think we should do? Roll over and have what tummy tickled? Those days are well gone now. This Newcastle United side has got more steel in it than the Tyne Bridge. It is the proper deal, and he didn't like that. Newcastle are supposed to know their place, and you've got to bear in mind that he's a bit sick of it because last season we stopped them going in the Champions League by chucking them up 2-0 up here. This season we've spoiled his record again and give Manchester City great heart for tonight when they go to Chelsea to close the gap and put them right back in it. And this is what Newcastle's about now. We've played 21 games in League and Cup and lost once. We're difficult to beat. We've gone to Arsenal and drawn. We've gone to Manchester United and drawn. We've gone to Spurs and won. We've beat Chelsea up here. We've held Manchester City up here. We're a difficult team to play against. And what are we supposed to do? Just roll over because we're playing Arsenal? I thought, Arteta just made himself look like a clown, to be truthful.
John, I couldn't agree more. I thought he looked quite pathetic in the way that he was carrying on. Yeah, and if I were a member of the Arsenal board, I'd have hauled him in and really taken a strip off him for behaving in that fashion. That is not an Arsenal way of doing it.
And you know the Arsenal way, having played there.
Absolutely, John. It was. I know that the ownership has gone very American these days, but nevertheless, there is still this
tradition, if you like.
Yeah, it's an old school tradition about Arsenal. And Arteta, I thought that he went way beyond the pale last night.
I mean, there's managers that do all this humpy-dumpy stuff. I mean, Conte can do it, and he does that sort of thing. And as the season's going down the pan, Klopp's decided to join in.
Yeah, he's been up to his silly tricks.
You think they're puppet on a string. But and that's not Eddie Howe's style. Eddie Howe tries to play it Mr. Cool and tells us that he does that because if he looks out of control, the players can get out of control. And he's
John,
right.
I was going to make that very point, and he's absolutely right, is Eddie, that what players want to see is a manager who's cool and calm and in control of the whole situation.
I mean, if their players look at Arteta, they think it's all right to go running around the referee.
Yes, because they follow suit. But for the very first time, right at the end, when he was going loopy for his second penalty, and he went loopy for everything all the game. I mean, and he was having a go at Tyndall. Even Eddie Howe, then, for the first time I've seen him do that on the touchline,
lost it by his standards, not by Arteta standards, and went across and wagged the finger and told him, hey, behave yourself, behave yourself. Yeah. And, you know, it's true. I mean, I thought it's a shame. Some people say, oh, it's wonderful because he cares and all that, but you can start blinking massacres that way. You know, you've got to be careful that you're not inciting things. And I thought Arteta let himself down because they are a good team. They are top of the league. They deserve to be where they are.
Some of their football is fantastic.
Yes.
It really is.
I mean, you know, so there's no need to get into a situation where you're making a Humpty of yourself the first time some side comes along and doesn't roll over. I mean, we've rolled over and had our tummy tickled so often in the past that it's lovely to be saying now, hey, pal, there's none of that anymore. We are here to compete and show we compete. And I thought our defending was absolutely magnificent. And it's not just the back four and the goalkeeper, because good defending starts from the front and works backwards. You defend the ball high. I mean, one of the greatest, and Malcolm will remember, one of the greatest for me defenders before we had the term high press was Ian Rush. Ian Rush, who scored about 35 goals a season. Ian Rush went along his front line when the ball was with the defenders and harried them and chased them. And the Liverpool side took it from there all the way back to the back four. And I think Newcastle, out of possession, do that brilliantly now.
Yes, they do.
They do that brilliantly. It's not just the back four and the keeper, although they've got to be outstanding. But the rest of the team join in, Malcolm, I think.
Yeah, they do.
And it can be a sort of a bit of a lost cause, not the way Newcastle are doing it. They're doing it in such a constructive fashion that you can seriously see the pressure that the opposition are getting put under by Newcastle in the way that they're doing it. And in the end, you can see that there's a bit of panic starting to set in. Even with Arsenal, at times, they were sort of searching for the next pass. It wasn't coming easy to them. And I thought the Newcastle back line was absolutely brilliant. The energy of the midfield was fantastic. All of them, you know, kids as well. And it was, I just found it so refreshing to watch a Newcastle side so completely organised. And what they did was, in that first 20 minutes, Arsenal went all out to win the game in the first 20.
Yeah.
And Arsenal and Newcastle, they just calmly dealt with the whole matter. There was no panic. Nobody started falling out of position or anything like that. Everybody just stayed so organised, and as well as Arsenal were playing in that first 20 minutes, and I thought they were brilliant. But Newcastle coped with it, and even when you think that in the whole of 90 minutes, Nick Pope only had one save to make.
Yeah, it was a terrific performance. And one of the things that I had worried about, and this puts a huge feather in the cap of Dan Burn. Dan Burn is a big-hearted, great centre-half. He's done fabulous at left-back, much more than I expected because it's not his natural position. And a lot of people thought he might be a weak link against Saka. Saka is such a good player, so quick, so inventive, the future of not just Arsenal, but probably England. And the feeling was that he could cause Burn some trouble. And in about the first 5 minutes, he got away from Burn, and Burn was trailing in his wake behind him. And I thought, oh dear, is this what's going to come? But Burn stuck to it. He's a good defender. Those long legs seemed to telegraph out and pull the ball back. And what Newcastle did well, I thought, was they never left Burn exposed on a one-to-one with Saka. There was always a second man round Burn, a second man round Burn. That Saka, if he come to check inside, there was a Newcastle man waiting for him, etc., etc. They work as a team. They help each other. They're not 11 individuals. Burn was terrific. and he'll be the first to say that he was helped very, very well, and he had to be, because Saka is a good young player. There's no question about that. A good young player. But Newcastle didn't get exposed there where they could have been exposed, and where Saka is exposed left backs all season.
Yeah, some great points coming in the chat. And there's a little few wind-ups in the chat as well. Jody Dumoulin says, Arteta's like this in every game. He never stays in the box. He's a bit like Chris Wood. He tried again with Arteta still in the box more than Chris Wood.
Did you send these in, Malcolm?
Evening, lads. What do you think of Chris Wood's performance? Says Diamond Tint. I'm not even going there.
Pseudonyms I'm having to use, John.
I'm not even going there. We're gonna change it around slightly. I mean, there's that many great questions coming in. I'll go with this one, which is from Alan. He says, "Is this the best Newcastle defence that we've ever had in our lifetime, John? Since my great granddad's time?"
It's a very, very good question, because we've had a lot of good individual defenders down the years. Obviously, Frank Clark and Bob Moncur leaps to mind straight away.
Craig as well.
Yes, well, that back four is probably the one of the best defences we've had. That back four of that time, which was basically the FA Cup winning back four, although of course it also involves the 74 team, although Craigie got himself injured and couldn't play in the final. But I think it is, I think as a unit, it is as good as any. It is now, we are the meanest defence officially. We've only let in 11 goals in 18 games. 11 goals. We've played 7 hours of Premier League football without letting in a solitary single goal. Now, that is incredible. And there's not a lot of luck there. We've looked comfortable in games defensively. And when somebody gets past the back four, Pope might have had nothing to do in the match, and then he produces a superlative save. His concentration behind a good back four is absolutely excellent. And as a unit, I mean, you can take them individually. And I think if you do that, you would say Trippier is as good a right back as we've ever had. Botman is turning out to be, by the end of his career up here, as good a centre half as we've had. I'm pretty certain of that. Yes. Shaw looks a different man, as a man that can come out the back with the ball, etc., etc.
And do it well. And do it well.
Oh, no question about that. And Burns so big-hearted, it's untrue, and will adapt to what he has to adapt to. And it's just as well at the moment, by the way, we've got Trippier and Burn, because with Kraft injured, as Trippier's standby, if you like, and with Target a long-term injury, we're a bit vulnerable in the two fullback positions in backup. But as I've said many times on this programme, I think we'll buy a right back this January.
John, just on the subject of Trippier at right back, and I've been trying to find out about this, but when he was booked against Leeds,
yes,
it was said, right, well, he misses the Arsenal game.
What that was all about, Malcolm, and I was looking into the same thing, was that you've got to have 5 bookings in the Premier League to miss the next Premier League game. One of his bookings was in the League Cup, so he's only got 4 in the Premier League and 1 in the League Cup, and that's why he wasn't banned. Gotcha. And that's what caused the confusion. Some stories came out saying he is banned, and then it come out, is he banned? And the rule is you've got to, your 5 bookings have got to be in Premier League games for you to miss a Premier League match. And one of his 5 was in the League Cup, so he's only got 4 bookings in the league.
Right. And so, John, in a cup competition, how many bookings does it take before you have to miss a match?
Oh, I think that you'd have to have 3 replays of the final at Wembley before you would miss a match. No, but I'm not certain quite how it works there.
Yeah, I'm not either then, if they're separating them up.
But that was what it was with, because my heart was in my mouth that he missed Arsenal of all games, because who would play right back, and it disrupts a magnificent back four.
Because it's not just what he does as a player at right back, but it's what he offers generally to not just the back four, but to players all around. I think he's an absolute stunner to have in your side as the skipper of the side.
Absolutely.
And he just keeps everybody going. He keeps giving them good advice all the time. He gives it good. And as soon as the ball goes out of play, or there's an injury and it's going to be stopped for a minute or two, he's straight over to somebody and he talks and he tells him what he should be doing to be better, and then he goes on to somebody else, and I just think he is an absolute natural born captain.
Yeah, he is, absolutely so, and he's the benchmark really for Newcastle signings, for the ones that came later and for the ones that must come in the future. He's the benchmark. You've got to be as good as he is, not just on the field, but in your leadership, and your leadership Monday to Friday as well. He fits the bill magnificently, and there must be a lot of sides privately, a lot of clubs saying, by God, we missed a trick when he come on the market, having just won La Liga with Atletico Madrid, and we didn't go and sign him because he was a very tasty price. Newcastle stole a march there, really stole a big-time march. If that was the first signing, and that was a real statement signing, Kieran Trippier. Yes, and by the way, as we come up, this is how far we've come, guys, because as we come up to this weekend, when we're going to play in the FA Cup against Sheffield Wednesday, go back a year ago, and Trippier, because he'd signed and a lot hadn't, played in the FA Cup against Cambridge at home, and we got dumped out of it. So how far have we come in the 12 months since we played Cambridge United and lost at home, and Trippier was in that side? And you know, he must have thought, I don't think he did for 1 minute, but he must have thought, crikey, there's a lot of work got to be done here, perhaps more than I thought. But it's been done so brilliantly and so quickly.
And quickly.
We're going into the Cup this time with a totally different attitude to we were in the Cup against Cambridge. You and I sat together, Malcolm, against Cambridge, and oh dear. It was one of those again, wasn't it? And now we're virtually in the semi-final of the League Cup, and we're third top of the Premier League.
And for all of that change to have happened in such a brief 12-month period is quite incredible.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, lots of questions coming in. We will come to the games against Sheffield Wednesday and, of course, Leicester next week at the end of the programme. John says, do we need reinforcements to solidify the top 4 challenge? Transfer window's open, John. Newcastle been linked with about 600 players so far. Some of them completely far-fetched. Some of them believable. But I think you're right. I think right back's certainly going to be a priority in this window. Maybe a youngster coming in. Lots of talk about a young Spanish right back potentially.
The Spanish kid,
coming to Newcastle in the next week or so. But what's your thoughts? Do we need reinforcements? Eddie Howe's playing it a bit coy in his press conferences.
Yeah, I mean, you can always need reinforcements. I mean, Pep Guardiola will be making a case out to his board about why he wants yet more players, because that's a manager's duty. And you can improve virtually every side, or certainly every squad, without question. But Newcastle have to be cautious in this, because every person they buy now in January is taking off what they can do in the summer, because of the fair play situation, where they've got sponsors that are locked in to be sponsors of Newcastle, and they're sponsors on the cheap, if you like. And Newcastle want to replace them with sponsors paying the big money, But you don't want to be paid off or anything. You want to stay a sponsor, don't you? You could be in the League Cup final at Wembley. You could be playing in the Champions League next season. You're going to stay as sponsors as long as you can. And until Newcastle can bring more money in, it limits what they can spend. In the old days, when Manchester City were taken over by Arab money, you could do what you like. You could spend your own money as much as you like, and they did. The rules have changed since that takeover, and you can't do that anymore. So Newcastle have got to be careful, and unless the right person comes along at the right money, a person they've wanted all the time, they'll keep most of the powder dry for the summer. There's no question about this. They believe they've got a squad good enough to launch a challenge for the Champions League, which is beyond what they were looking for.
Sure,
this season anyway.
but also you've got to look that little bit further, where it's not just a challenge for the Champions League. If you qualify, you're then playing, and your matches almost double in a season.
Oh, absolutely.
And so you pretty much, if you're going to succeed relatively in the Champions League, you need to be able to field 2 first teams.
Yeah. Well, and Malcolm, Manchester City do that and haven't won the Champions League.
Yes.
They can field 2 first
That's
teams.
right.
Won it. I mean, just to finish the question on Newcastle, having gone through all that waffle that I did on signings, I think that while they'll go for a young right back, I think the other signing, if there is one of any consequence, will probably be a midfield player. I think there's a feeling that, especially as Joe Linton is at the moment playing wide left, you've got the 3 boys in the middle who are doing a terrific job, but what have you got left after them?
Yes.
For injuries and for everything else. Shelby's out the equation. Elliot Anderson will probably go out on loan. So you've got the 3 midfield players that are currently in the side, plus Joe Linton, who's in the side wide left, and that's it. I think they will bring in a centre midfield player in the transfer window as well.
Okay. Also, just on this particular subject, earlier on there was a comment sent in naming a young lad and talking about him playing on Saturday against Sheffield Wednesday, and this club hasn't won a trophy since 1969. It hasn't won a domestic trophy since the mid-1950s. Let's not mess about with weakening sides to give youngsters a run out, to give them a try. Let's go and win a trophy first, and then we can maybe start messing about. But let's win a trophy. Let's stick the strongest 11 out against every single opposition that's to be faced, and go and beat them.
Yeah, great point, Malcolm. And you're not going to get any disagreement from any of us. Loads of questions coming in. I'm going to have a quick ad break, and then we'll come back to them ASAP. A big thank you to all our sponsors, as always. Thanks to Skips and Bins, telephone 0800 25 45 25 3, email inquiries at skipsandbins.com, and our website skipsandbins.com. Easy, contract free, and pay-as-you-go waste collection. Thanks to Garden of Healing Dispensaries, CBD hemp and cannabinoid specialists. You can find them at thegohd.com. Thanks to Mr. Vicky's sauces, which are handmade in Cumbria, and you can find them at mrvickies.co.uk. If you want to make an order, give them a call on 01768 210 102 or email info@mrvickies.co.uk. Thanks to Blowhole Breweries, you can get a selection of beers, and the cans are in the design of the old Newcastle United entertainers strips. Blowholebrewery.co.uk. Thanks to Melly's Carpets and Beds, laying our reputation one recommendation at a time. The best quality around at the cheapest prices. Melly's Beds and Carpets.co.uk. Email sales@mellysbedsandcarpets.co.uk or give Melly a call on 01670 632 2 And thanks to United Group Travel Limited, UK Coach Holidays in Morpeth, 01670 362 460 or mobile 07957 141 654. Graham, your driver, Beverly answering your calls and looking after you on your tour. Some great deals coming up there. Get yourself onto the website to check them out. Thanks also to Media Arts, who do all of our videos and help us with the technological side of things. And thanks to qtechshop.co.uk, the makers of pool tables and snooker tables in Wallsend, Newcastle, and the guys who run our website, NUFCmatters.com. If you want to subscribe to the channel, then hit the subscribe button below. Hit the thumb up, which is the like button, which does us a big favour with the algorithm. And click share. Share it to Newcastle United Facebook groups or Twitter accounts or your own social media to help our community grow. And if you want to join the channel, hit the join button. And for as little as $1.99 a month, you can get some members-only videos and chances to win some fantastic prizes. We're also available as a podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Podbean, and the rest. Don't forget as well that we do events through NUFC Matters. And this one is the next event coming up, Friday the 24th of February, an evening with Newcastle United legend Steve Howie. Friday the 24th of February, Tyneside Irish Centre, and tickets are available at £50 from newcastlelegends.com. If you also go onto Voucher and search for the event, you can pick up a bargain on there. Don't forget, we also support the food bank on this channel. www.nufcfansfoodbank.co.uk is where you can find the Matchday Bucket. You can make a virtual donation to the Matchday Bucket 365 days of the year to keep helping the food bank in Newcastle. Okay, great. So plenty of questions coming in, as I said. Ian, you might find out that Coyle has actually gone up to Hearts, I think, the Tynecastle today, mate. So we'll not be getting a look at him unless we watch a bit of Scottish football on Sky. Stephen's asking about our thoughts on David Dean advocating 60-minute football matches. He says, is this to please the Yankee Arsenal contingent? There's a few Yankees in this Premier League now, Stephen. I haven't seen that, so I can't really give any comment on what Dean has said. I'll have to look that up, mate. But 60-minute football matches, I mean, they're having a laugh, John, aren't they?
Oh, I would think so. I mean, we've had 2 0-0 draws in 90 minutes, so why we want 60 minutes and double the number of 0-0 draws? I don't know. I mean, let's not tinker with it for the sake of tinkering. I mean, that has produced all sorts of minor problems in the past. I would never go down that road whatsoever and leave the game as it is meant to be, which is an hour and a half. I mean, I would take that one right out of context.
Yeah, we don't need to dwell too much on this one, Malcolm. An hour match, it's just ludicrous suggestion, that.
I think it's the most ridiculous thing I've come across. I really do. David Dean wants his brains examining if he's being serious about this.
Yeah, I think sometimes they just say it for the reaction, just to keep themselves relevant. I really do.
Yeah.
Jasmine says that Gibbo mentioned ratting of Argentina the other week. He said, I had a rat in my kitchen and I didn't know what to do. Thank you, Jasmine, for that. And nothing like a bit of humour.
You'd rather a rat in your kitchen than Rattan.
Alf Ramsey would have known what to do.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Because even Nobby Stiles took him on, didn't he?
Yes.
That's right.
Yeah. Oh, that was a classic.
Nobby Stiles, bless him, was blind, so he didn't know what he was facing. You know,
He didn't know. That's very true.
Paul Patterson says the debate rages on about Maximin. He says, I see him as an impact sub and Murphy is the less glamorous, but the more reliable and disciplined option for the time being until upgrades can be bought. What are your thoughts on this? Well, I think everybody is of that impression now. There's 1 or 2 diehard ASM fans who think he should play every game. But I think we all know that Eddie Howe is going to make the decision, as he did at Arsenal, in a key game, at a vital part of the game, when he was coming to make those substitutions. He put Murphy on ahead of ASM, and I've got to be honest. I think he only brought ASM on because Willock was crocked. I'm not even sure whether he would have brought ESL at all in that game. What's your thoughts, John, on that?
It wasn't the kind of game for Saint-Maximin, I don't think. And
no.
What he doesn't seem to get into his psyche is that the game of football is not about twisting defenders. It's not about nutmegging people. It's not about causing defenders to slip over. What it is, it's about sticking the ball in the net. And if you're not doing that, do the other, make the goals. And he doesn't do either enough. He can have a huge amount of possession over 90 minutes and actually achieve nothing at all. Doesn't get a cross in, doesn't get shots in. So he's not making, he's not scoring. And he's in the end, he might be a very exciting player, but he's actually negative for me. I see him as a negative player. You have somebody like Willock or young Sean Longstaff, and they make mistakes, but what they're doing is but in the main, what they're doing is so positive. They're getting forward. They're making runs into the box. And they are frightening defenders more than Saint-Maximin is. Because Saint-Maximin keeps going round and round and round and round, disappearing up his own backside. And he's not actually putting pressure on the opposition. And until he gets a positive frame of mind and applies that to how he plays, we're not going to see enough of him to warrant a place in the side.
John?
Be interesting to see what Eddie Howe does with him on Saturday, because if he doesn't get a start at Sheffield Wednesday, who are League One side, then he's going to be an impact sub for the rest of the season for Newcastle. If he's going to have a chance to get back in the team, moving Joe Linton back into his midfield slot, then he's got to start in a game like this. He won't start on Tuesday because we're going for the semi-final of a cup, and I think he'll put out his strongest side on Tuesday, because we really can't be this close to a cup and then treat it with disrespect. And Eddie won't, because he put out his strongest side in the last League Cup side, the strongest side on that day that he was able to field. So I think that Saint-Maximin won't start on Tuesday. On next Sunday, we're back to Fulham and we're back to the Premier League. If he's got an immediate future as a possibility of a first team being a first teamer as opposed to an impact sub, he's got to be selected to start at Sheffield Wednesday, and then he's got to do the business. The team selection will tell us an awful lot about his immediate future at St. James's Park, whether he's going to be taken seriously or whether he's going to be an impact sub in the way that Murphy's used as a sub, etc., etc., etc.
Yeah, it's one that's going to run and run. He certainly splits opinions within the fan base. Graham says, what do you guys think? Or is it just me that I'd prefer it if we didn't finish in the top four, because I don't want to peak too soon? It's a lovely conversation to be able to have, by the way, Graham. But it's one I've had with numerous Newcastle fans, John, in various places over the last couple of weeks, because the run is continuing, and you feel if Newcastle could win a Champions League place at the first time of asking, in Eddie Howe's second season as gaffer, and dare I say it, get to Wembley and not wanting to jinx it, but even winning a silver cup thing, whatever they're called, then you know, it puts pressure immensely on and anyhow next season, because anything below that is then failure. So would it be nice just to drop away in the league a little bit to give us something to aim for or achieve next season?
Certainly not. I've waited long enough for Newcastle to do things. Everybody will have to get used to pressure, because this is the new Newcastle United. And the new Newcastle United will be up at the top of the Premier League, in the top 4, the top 6 all the time, will be playing in Europe and will be going for domestic cups. It's what's called progress, baby. Now, I can't believe, and bless the guy, and I know where he's coming from, but Newcastle peaked too soon. Well, surely they peaked too soon already this season to be where they are in the league. And from where we've come from, second bottom.
and then go to Highbury and cope with the situation.
Totally.
So they're not peaking too soon, John.
No, they proved they can handle pressure. I've sort of said the games we've played this season against the top clubs, and the only one to beat us was Liverpool in the 98th minute, and so fluky it was untrue. No, we're not peaking too soon, and you take your chances while you come. Where I'm sitting here today, I want to win the League Cup, the FA Cup, and finish in the Champions League. Because if I get 1 out of 3, that'll be great. But you know, you take your opportunity while it's here. And I've said,
you don't think we can overtake Arsenal then?
No. That's the only one that I don't believe. I don't believe that we're going to win the title, and I think that is over ambitious for us this particular season because of the draws we've had. But I mean, I want to. This is a great season, you know, guys, to achieve something like the Champions League, like winning the League Cup, etc. Because we're not playing in Europe yet, so we've got a free fixture list. The dance card is open. We can dance with whoever we want to dance with. Let's take advantage of that and let us do something this season. Because every season from now on, unless things go down disastrously wrong, we're going to be playing in one of the European competitions and we're going to have a cluttered fixture list. That's what's called pressure. If we want to be in the top, the big 6, if we want to scatter them, and they're all terrified of us now, because of what we're doing, then we've got to get used to pressure. Be it Eddie Howe, be it the players, be it the supporters, be it the board. Pressure is what you want, because a different word for pressure is success.
Sure.
Success brings pressure.
Yeah, and I think that the club they're having to get used to the fact that here we are with the transfer window now open. And if we're going to be in the Champions League, the amount of strengthening we need to do it in January, in the summer, the following January, the following summer, and we need to strengthen as much as possible. And as I mentioned earlier, if you're going to look to succeed in the Champions League, you have to be able to field 2 first teams.
Yeah, and as we say, Man City, with all their money and the head start they've got over Newcastle, haven't done it yet.
No, and they still haven't done it. They're still trying.
Mm.
Now, Malcolm, over Christmas, I was sent a few photographs. I was sent this one first. Your first day in Newcastle, arriving, I think, in some way, shape, or form. One of those first weeks of your Newcastle United career. I was also sent this one, a very festive one.
Oh, right. Yes.
Oh, that's century. Yes. Yeah.
You in the middle one, your black and white.
Mine's the only genuine beard.
Yeah. Well, there's somebody here who might disagree with you. Bernie Slaven, good evening. Welcome to the Newcastle platform.
Bernie Slaven, I haven't seen you on the screen for years.
I'll tell you what, I tuned in and I heard you talking about Champions League. You're having a laugh, aren't you? Come on. It's like loads of games.
Now, Bernie, don't get naughty just because of Geordie's sorting you out down at Middlesbrough.
No, being serious, I watch every game now. Newcastle's been unbelievably impressive. Can't believe the turnaround.
Good for you.
The manager talks well. He's Big Joe Linton, for instance. A year ago, you'd written him off, didn't you?
Yes,
You know what
absolutely.
I mean?
We had.
And Amaron. Dear God, he's your top scorer. What is he banged in 9-10 goals, whatever it is?
Yeah.
You've done very well. You're good in the eye, good to watch. I watched the Arsenal game and I thought you went with the right tactics because they're flying and scoring goals for fun. And you went there and you frustrated them. Great point.
Yeah.
Great point. So,
yeah. And you're not doing so badly either, are you?
No, people say to me, Martin, you know, what's Carrick done that's different? Simplistic things. What he's done is, and I've been saying this for years, and some of the fans have, Pulis, Wilder, Warnock, Karanka, all played 3 centre-backs with wing-backs. Carrick's come in and went, do you know what, we're ripping that up. We're going 4 at the back. I'm not going to keep chopping and changing and messing players about. If you play well and you're doing the business, you stay in the team. That's it. Simplistic. Nothing more. Same team if you're playing well. Maybe the odd tweak. The likes of Wilder and Warnock were making wholesome changes every game. You could score 2, Martin, and you'd be on the bench next week. All this crap about squad system and garbage. Come on. And the thing that proves that Carrick knows what he's doing is Akpom. He's the top scorer in the championship at the minute. Don't forget that. 13 goals. He's aiming for that 20 goal target, Martin, that 20 league goal target.
Hey, Bernie, how long ago was it that you had somebody top scorer in the championship, for heaven's sake?
No, Malcolm, you sent me email years ago. And it was one of the posh papers you read. You know, I'm Johnny and Stevie reads the posh papers, the Telegraph, the Guardian. I was reading the Daily Sport, looking at page 3. He was looking at all the. And he sent me a letter or an email saying, Bernie, I don't know if you're aware, you're the last Boro player to score 20 league goals. And I looked and I'm thinking, is he winding me up? Anyway, I've looked through and he's right. Now, Akpom's got 20 games to get 8 to equal me with 21 league goals.
Right.
But Akpom playing very well. But going back to Carrick, he could have took him off. A lot of managers take players off when they've got 2 goals. Yeah, they don't want him to override the whole occasion, come off, but he kept him on, he got a hat-trick. Well done. Good management, well done, Akpom. Everybody's happy. McLaren wouldn't have done that. Steve McLaren used to take Hasselbank and Viduka and all that off when he scored 2.
He did, didn't he?
Yeah, he did.
I tell you, if a manager had ever done that to me when I was on a hat-trick, I would have belted him.
Malcolm, I wouldn't have come off. They'd have had to get the police on. I wouldn't have come off. I'd have just took the fine when I come off the park. I'd try and hat-trick. You wouldn't have come off. You'd have knocked the manager at you.
Are you gonna manage to finish above Sunderland this season, please, Bernie?
Hold on, the dog and gun will finish above that lot. No, I'll be honest. I'm delighted Tony Mowbray, who I'm a massive fan of, John. I'm delighted with the job. He's based in this area. He's a professional. Obviously, he's born and bred Redcar. He's a Boro captain, former captain. But he's worked the managerial ladder. And to get a job like Sunderland, he really appreciates it. And you have to say they're still getting great crowds. Saying that, he's been shot. The lad went back in loan. Was it Sims? He went back in loan from the loan period to Everton. So that's a loss. And then I'm talking about the other striker could be up for sale. I'm talking about Middlesbrough. Now, you know the modern game. It's chairman, chief execs and directors of football that call the shots now. Who comes in, who goes out. There's no managers. They're all coaches now. Or puppet-like figures. That's what the game is. You know, they won't admit it, but that's what they are.
Yeah, managers no longer buy players, Bernie, like they did in the old days.
I've seen it in Middlesbrough for many years, John. Yeah. And I used to say it, and people say, no, you're wrong and all that. And I would talk to guys fairly high places, and they would say, no, you're wrong. And I say, well, that's my gut instinct. And I'm right. We've got a director of football now. He's not raised his head above the parapet until Carrick came in. Because the likes of Wilder and Warnock, guys that's been round the block, who's worked a managerial ladder, who have been used to dictating, all of a sudden I've got a young boy here, comparison with him, with no managerial experience, buying players for him.
Yeah.
I seen Warnock getting players in and never played them. I seen Wilder getting players in. We signed Piero, Argentinian, £5 million, a lot of money for us over the last couple of years. He's back in Argentina. He only played a handful of games. Warnock wouldn't pick them. So the people that's watching this, football coach, they're coaches now. So what is their job? The role is they train the team. This includes Newcastle. Train the team and pick the team, but they don't pick all the players that come through your door or go out your door. And a lot of fans can't see that.
Yeah.
The manager carries a can. So Steve and John could be the top scouts, director of coaching. You're giving me duds. They don't work for whatever reason. Maybe not good enough. I don't fancy them, but you're giving me them. And then I carry the can for you two. And you just keep your job and I get sacked.
Well, I mean, we've seen that on managers that don't sign players. Dubrovka was foisted on the new manager at Manchester United, and he made it abundantly clear that it wasn't his choice. He couldn't stop him coming into the club, but he wasn't going to pick him. And he put Heaton on the bench at 37 or 38 for the Premier League games ahead of Dubrovka, who naturally, under those circumstances, wanted to come back, asked Newcastle to activate the release clause, and he's back here. You can force players on managers, but you can't force the manager then to pick them.
That's right, and that's what's happening. The managers like Wilder, more experience, are rebelling and saying, well, you can give me them, but I'm still picking the team. I don't care what you paid for them. I ain't playing them. But you look at, is it Jez Spencer, the lad that went to Tottenham?
Yes, from Middlesbrough, yes.
What did Conte say? Conte's no messing about. He went, I never signed him. I didn't want him.
Yep.
He's never kicked a ball. Moved for millions, never kicked a ball. Moved for Forest where he was on loan. So that's an indication. There's not a lot of managers who'll come out and be so honest and forthright because they know their job's in the line or they're getting trouble or whatever reason. They're all nodding donkeys, I'm afraid.
There's the answer to your question, Mal. There is no cards in the cup suspension anymore. It was 3, but it's specific to the tournament now. So that's an answer to that question. I finally got there. Because we've got Bernie on, I'm going to finish off, obviously, just on the FA Cup, because it's coming up at the weekend. And Tom Dixon does ask, what memories have you got of the famous FA Cup? Personal memories. So, John, we'll start with you, and then go to Malcolm, and then we'll go to Bernie.
Personal memories of the FA Cup?
Yeah, your best one, I guess.
Oh, yes, because my worst one's Hereford, and we don't want to go. I'm not going to start talking about that.
You'll see that at the weekend.
That's my best one.
Absolutely no chance. I mean, really, if the modern Newcastle United, the semi-finals that 74 when Malcolm won it against Burnley 2-0, and by the way, that was at Hillsborough, and that's where we're going back this Saturday, so that might be an omen. The big man here scored 2 goals at Hillsborough. They got way to the 74 FA Cup final. We're playing in the same competition on the same ground, albeit against different opposition this weekend. But the memory of that, the memory of Shearer twice winning the semi-finals is a big memory. But if it's personal, it goes way back to the 50s, and there's only an old swine like me that would be able to remember that. And when I sat in my Auntie Grace's house watching a black and white television, postage stamp size, with the whole family watching Newcastle win the cup 3 times in 5 years. It was absolutely wonderful, and I thought I'm going to have a lifetime of this, and it's never happened once since.
I thought that was a myth. Did you actually win the cup, you lot?
Yeah, 51, 52,
Bernie,
55.
Bernie, you better not get naughty with your cup record at Middlesbrough. Your
John,
FA
we've
Cup
got one of the most
at
recent
Middlesbrough.
trophies. The League Cup is the only trophy we've won, but it's in the cabinet, and it's fairly new, 2004. You've lost a lot of dust and cobwebs.
So you're looking forward to the FA Cup this weekend with your record then, Bernie, are you?
I'll be honest, John. FA Cups, don't forget we got to the final under Robbo and all that nightmare. You know, late goals or daft goals. I've no great memories. Personal memory, I scored a hat-trick against Blackpool. That was my only personal memory. But FA Cups, no. When it comes to Middlesbrough, I just think Wembley getting done, and no great memories about FA Cups.
All right, Malcolm, what was your greatest memory? I think a lot of fans' greatest memory was the the Burnley semi, of course.
Yes, I think it's for sure the Burnley semi-final. Although I have to say that the finest team performance that I ever had the great fortune to play in was when we beat West Brom down there at the Hawthorns 3-0. And what a team performance that was. It was quite incredible. And an irony was that one of our great players at the time was Terry Hibbett. Well, he went off injured after just a few minutes after kickoff, and Jinky Smith came on, and he just ran the whole show. Jinky ran the whole show for the rest of the game, and I scored the first goal, and it was from an absolute exocet of a cross from Jinky, who was out on the right wing, and he just drilled it in sort of high head height, and I just got up in the air, and literally it just hit my forehead and angled into the goal. And
can I ask John Malcolm?
Unbelievable.
John would know because he watched you as a player. I'm sure you did, John.
Yeah.
Steve, you wouldn't if you're too young. John, is it true that Malcolm McDonald played at St James's? I can't remember the opposition. He got the ball about just over the halfway line into the opponent's half. A guy jumped in his back. He carried the guy in his back like 3 bags of coal and shoved it top corner. Is that true or not? That's a myth, isn't it?
No, that's true, but it was in the semi-final of the FA Cup against Burnley at Hillsborough. He did it how many times? 4, did you say there? Did you say he done it 4 times?
Yeah, 4 times.
Perfectly true. In the biggest match that we had, the semi-final of the Cup to take with the Wembley, Bernard, I'm sorry to tell you that, but I'm supporting my old mucker there because I was there. John. I
don't expect anything else for you 3.
Yeah, exactly. Right, John, prediction from you for the game against Sheffield Wednesday and the game against Leicester, of course, the quarter-final on Tuesday.
Right, well, Sheffield Wednesday, League One, whatever we say, big club with big support. They've won the top honours in the games. There's absolutely no question about that. But they are still a League One side. We've played 21 matches this season, League and Cup, and lost once, 98th minute at Liverpool. We should not lose and will not lose at Sheffield Wednesday. Draws are allowed here because they produce replays, unlike the League Cup. But I'm taking with a win first time, 2-0 against Sheffield Wednesday. And against Leicester, to get in the semi-final of the League Cup at home, having recently won 3-0 at Leicester, I'm taking a Newcastle Cup double that they will beat Sheffield Wednesday and they'll beat Leicester City.
Lads, can I just ask you before you, I know you were rushing, have you got a trophy cabinet?
Yes.
Excuse me, mate. Excuse me. May I say, Bernie, there's 6 FA Cups. There's 6 FA Cups in the trophy. And yours has got a duster in so that you can dust the shelves that have gotten out on them.
That's the job I've got at the club these days, John. They've never given me a job in the coaching role. I just brush the empty cabinet and the Carling Cup.
Malcolm, give us your predictions for those 2 games. Are we going to
I will be very disappointed if Newcastle concede against either side, and so I'm going to take them certainly to do the job exceedingly well, because I think that the players are that hungry, and they want to get to Wembley. They want to start playing in these big matches. And so I'm going to take Newcastle to beat Sheffield Wednesday 2-0 and 2-0 also against Leicester.
All right, Michael says, I'd love to see Boro go up. Honestly, I know there's local rivalry and all that, but we need some more short trips. He says, our derby shouldn't be with Leeds. And the question I'm going to leave tonight's show with is for Bernie. And it's from Tom, who's a Newcastle fan. He says, Bernie, do you expect Middlesbrough to get promoted this season?
I expect Middlesbrough. I think we're bringing in a striker on loan, so that's cool for Villa. So if he comes in and another one, I think we're good enough for top 6. Top 2, I'm not so sure about that. We've had a good run, but hey, injuries, loss of form, suspensions, anything can happen. And my biggest line of supply, and the best player we've got is the left back, is Giles. He's on loan for Wolves. He's flawed defensively, but most full-backs, wing-backs are. But going forward, he's the best. He's my biggest source of creativity. And that's how Akpom's get the amount of goals, because of him. If anything happens to him, the supply line's more than half. Anyway, you're going to progress in the cup. Bernie,
just a question, though, because it is now a very, very expensive club to be a part of in the Premiership. You know, when you think that that 2 seasons ago, Fulham spent £115 million only to be relegated immediately in the first season. They've spent hugely again, but this time it really is working for them, and they look at a super side. But how are Middlesbrough Football Club looking at the possibility of you going into the Premiership? Are they prepared
Malcolm,
to take...
I don't know the financial structure. I know you get money if you got, but we would definitely have to spend it to survive. I went to walk with a few of my mates who are Boro fans. One's a Rangers fan as well. And we were just saying that going up, we'd need to spend millions, Malcolm, to just content. I remember Karanka going up. We came down, inevitably. We didn't play good football. We were scared to death. We didn't go out and try and entertain. We were just trying to keep it down to 3-0 or whatever. And it was a bore. I don't want to get in the Premier League and become the whipping boys of the Premier League. To survive, you need money. And I don't know what the financial structure is.
Money.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a Steve Gibson fan. I know him personally. He's a businessman. He'll be ruthless, but I like him. But I'm not a sycophantic fool. But he's got carrot right so far, and everybody was maybe doubting it at the start, and Woodgate coming back. But so far, so good. So long may it continue. We'll get Brighton Saturday in the Cup.
Well, it would be lovely to see you up there, Bernie.
Yeah, it would be.
I'd love all three to be in. That's what it's about, isn't it? Derby games.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I look forward to seeing you next season, and I hope Sunderland come up, because that'll guarantee you 6 points. So that's okay as well.
John, the old jokes. You want to get rid of the joke books, John, man. It's Christmas. You've got new joke books.
They still hold water, Bernie. They still hold water, pal.
Bernie, thanks for coming on tonight, mate. And you've gone down well in the chat, as I knew you would. And I didn't tell John and Malcolm you were coming on. I wanted it to be a surprise.
They would have left if you told they to.
Yeah, I might not have turned up.
Your fingers were in the middle of that crash. Steve, thank you very much, John. All the best, Malcolm. Keep in touch.
And you, Bernie. Love to the family.
Up the Jordan. Hey, listen. I've never liked the Geordie people. I love the Geordies. A bit like Glaswegians. Down to earth, working class backgrounds, but I don't like your team. But anyway, you're going to win something, aren't you? See you later. I'm going for an alcoholic drink.
Yes, we are.
Great to have Bernie on. Absolutely fantastic.
See what I had to put up with doing the legends.
Yeah, he's great, fantastic, good sport as well. But good luck to Middlesbrough. Yeah, I think we've all agreed, and those in the chat as well. Love to have Bernie on. So yeah, we might get him on again. Certainly knows what he's talking about. Another world-class pro in his day, and top man as well. Who I know the guys have got a lot of respect for. But great stuff as always. Thanks for joining us. I will be back 5 o'clock tomorrow night with the three amigos, taking you into your weekend. Saturday morning, I'll be here with Ben Jacobs, and then Sunday it will be the professional show. But Mal and John, enjoy the FA Cup and enjoy the League Cup. I'll see you guys next Thursday.
Certainly will. All right.
Take care.
See you next week, guys.
Bye.
Bye now.